Alright, often get questions, how do you know when your clutch drum is worn out? And this saw came in, it's a perfect example of a very worn clutch drum. So it came in with no chain. I made up a 50 driver chain to fit. This is a 201 Stihl. But your clutch drum, that's universal. It doesn't matter if it's a Stihl, Echo, Poland, whatever. So anyways, this is what's called a spur setup. I can talk about that in a different video, but basically if your rim sprocket or your spur sprocket is worn out, this is what you'll get. We have here, chain isn't super tight, but when you try and roll it, it's very clinky. When you try and roll it this way, it's notchy. These are, it's like it's a going over center. So a lot of times people will put a new chain on an older saw and not realize why it won't roll. So I apologize about the dog. So here it is, we've loosened this chain up. And let's see if I can work this off. I want to do this all in one take so that you can see there's really no magic in this. Here we go. So here's the drum. I'll set this down. So here's the drum. It'll focus. If you look, let's see if I can get this thing to focus. There you go. Down there in between the sprockets where those little divots are just above my thumbnail there, that's where the bottom of the drivers are actually hitting. And then if you look at how short, or there you go. See how deep that's worn? So this is just like the tracks on a dozer, if you're familiar with those. As a chain stretches, it eats all the parts, not just the chain itself stretches. Everything it's running on wears into it as a set. So I don't really care for spurs. That's why most pro saws at this point come with a rim sprocket. But being as this is a very small diameter, very hard to get a spur, a rim that will fit Pico chain in a 6-pin. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 drivers. So, anyways, that being said, brand new drum. So this is a 201 Stihl, 3/8 Pico, 6 tooth. This thing opened up. See the difference? Ta-da! This is an OEM drum. I'm not super picky about OEM on drums as long as you stick with a good name brand. Oregon is one that I like, but to get this saw quickly back to the tree service it belongs to so they can go back to killing trees with it. Let's see if I can work this on. Okay. So, okay, there we go. So that's back on there. Tighten this back up. I'll even over tighten it a little bit. Really snug there. Nice and smooth. Much smoother. And that is why you have to keep an eye on these. That one is slam worn out. And anybody that's not familiar, this is what's called an outboard clutch. Clutch is the most outboard thing. This little hex 13mm is what you can grab on this, and these are left-handed thread. Some saws come with this hex. Some come where you need a special tool to grab the spider. Some of them have notches where you can hit them with a punch. Anyways, this one has the hex. As you notice, this is lefty-tighty. Spins on. I just had this off the other day, so the bearing that this rides on is freshly lubed. So that is it. Once you get it bottomed out, you'll feel it stop. Do not put a wrench on here and try and just horse on it. What will happen is you're grabbing these pawls in the starter, and you will bust the starter if you try and tighten this thing. Now, that being said, do not ever crank one of these up, especially if you've just had the clutch off without a bar and chain on it and the cover. I will take this saw when I put it back together, set the chain brake, start it, and bump it a couple times against the brake, and then I will stick it in a piece of wood. The action, the motor driving the chain, forcing this backwards, will tighten it, and it will tighten it where it wants it. If you try and tighten it or force it tight, you stand the risk of over tightening it, busting something. I like to just let the chain versus the motor tighten this to wherever it wants to be, no tighter, and after about 2-3 minutes of running, that thing will be there. And you will need impact, or if you must, blocking the cylinder to get the clutch off. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.